Will Huff. Hey. Oh my God, in the flesh.
In the flesh, finally.
We text, we talk on Signal,
yeah.
We share X.
We go around. We were at another event, but then we had to leave early, one of us, so we just pass each other all the time.
Each other. Yeah, I think it was another Flynn event, wasn't it? Last time I was in DC.
Yeah, we just had the same circle, though.
Yeah, same circle. It's a good circle.
People trying to save our republic, preserve our republic.
It seems to be a small circle these days.
It does.
There's a lot of people that are spectator sport watching us go, it's on fire.
It is. And,
so you were sitting in this meeting, this election integrity meeting here that General Flynn, who's the chair of the Ellie Gold of the Gold Institute.
Yeah.
Tell me, give me your opinion of the day, because it was a big briefing, I understand.
Yeah, so I actually presented a little bit too.
Okay.
And so I work with avii.org, that's America Voter Integrity Initiative, avii.org. And our segment was about the voting equipment, the electronics.
Okay.
On top of that, we had experts come in on dirty voter rolls, on the mail-in ballot scheme.
Scheme. Is that really what it is?
So,
the scheme.
And we had experts come in and speak on that, and we had the rule of law, what should be done within the confines of the law and moving forward and trying. It was all about being actionable today.
Right.
Like a lot of the stuff we've all kind of heard before we know. We're not telling anybody things we didn't know.
Right.
But it was more of a, let's get together, let's see where our ideas are, because sometimes there are conflicting concepts of what should happen in our movement. We have people who butt heads, like, I don't see anything wrong with the voting machines. I don't see anything wrong with this or that. And so you have people who compartmentalize. And today was kind of like, hey, let's bring it all in. Let's look at the holistic picture and actions of what we should do.
Was there a consensus takeaway? Because I mean, what we can do, what we want to do, is met by how do we get it done?
That's right.
Right.
And so one of the takeaways is we need to have Congress do legislation. Article 1, Section 4 of the Constitution says Congress has time, place, and manner authority of all elections.
Right.
That's guaranteed across. The problem we're running into is we don't know if it can be done in a timely manner through Congress, because Senate will not kill the filibuster.
Right.
Even though they...
This is my concern with the SAVE Act,
that's
by the way.
the SAVE Act, yes. Right. And so that's one issue. So what we do know is it's a national emergency in elections, and the president has ultimate authority on that.
Right.
So the question is, what things need to be repaired? We can't have mass mail-out voting. That's just number one.
Fraud.
Yeah, you can't have mass mail-out.
Right.
So if we need the UOCAVA for our military, and then it has to be very selected few who qualify for absentee ballots. That's different from mail-in. So we have a lot of people say, oh, we want to ban mail-in, you don't want elderly voting. That's not the same. Absentee is not the same as mail-in. So some states, they don't understand the issue. Like Arizona, 45 days before an election, the election officials mail a ballot to every address that has a voter registration. And
we've now learned there's addresses with voter registrations that are empty parking lots.
Correct.
And a lot of people mail
UPS centers.
And UPS centers, or you have 50 mail-in votes going to one address.
Correct.
In one single apartment.
And you have people who've moved out of state getting so like let's just pretend the empty lot thing isn't there. You have people who have filed with the post office. I have moved out of state. They're letting everyone know. They've registered in a new state. They're still on a voter roll in one state. And this isn't just anecdotal.
Breakdown in system connections and talking to one another.
That's right.
DMV and post office, and then the voter registration. These should all talk to one another and be checks and balances.
They should, and the voter rolls should be recycled and cleaned consistently.
Wouldn't it make sense to just eliminate voter rolls altogether and let people show up with their ID and go, hey, I live in this precinct?
And here's my address. And so, see, now I would be in trouble there because I have moved and haven't changed my name. So I just recently moved. So there are issues. But what needs to be done is cross-check to prove you are you.
Right, you can bring an electric bill and your passport or a different ID.
And prove you're you.
Right.
And during registration, you should prove that you're a citizen.
Right.
And you hear people say, well, non-citizens don't get registered. You hear it all the time.
That's not true.
Now,
Voter.
I'm going to tell you one reason I know it's not true. I was an instructor, Arkansas State University.
Okay.
3 of my students came in with voter registrations, and they showed me. They said, hey, I got registered to vote. And you'd say, well, what's the problem with that? None of my students are Americans. I teach English to international students. They came in and they were automatically registered to vote when they got their driver's license.
That's the problem.
And they're not citizens.
Yeah.
The people at the DMV are just going through the motions, and they're registering, and they're talking fast to foreigners who don't know, like, are you going to register to vote? I don't know. And it's fast because my students are learning English. They're beginners.
Right.
So there's a problem. Voter rolls are an issue. Mail-in is an issue. But there are very few people who really understand the electronic vulnerabilities and who work in our actual elections. You know, they say we have an election, but we really have like 4,000 elections going on. Each county runs its own election.
That's right.
And when you go talk to a county official, they don't understand the vulnerabilities in each action. I'm going to say for 99% of the counties, they're good people running the elections. They want safe elections. They want them secure, but they're not smart on the issues.
Well, the statutes, they're not following the statutes because they haven't been trained on the statutes.
They don't get help. But when you bring up something like the tabulator having an issue, they say, well, you know, we do an LNA test, a logic and accuracy test. We do this, we do that. When all of those are kind of a dog and pony show to make you feel good that things are happening. But in electronic voting, ballot on demand printers are a point of attack that can be used. That happened in Arizona for Kerry Lake. It happened in Waco, Texas. It happened in New Jersey. On election day, the ballot on demand printers decided they didn't want to work properly. What that does is causes lines, which then causes people to leave, which is voter suppression, just like Jim Crow laws.
That's right.
And then you have e-poll books. E-poll books are a big issue because you can vote for someone who's not there. Check them in on an e-poll book, print a piece of paper and go vote for them. And they never showed up and they never did anything. And then you can also deactivate bad voters. And nobody will ever know. You can put them on. So there's all the different electronics are points of vulnerability.
So has the consensus come back around that if President Trump were to declare a national emergency, we know that a lot of these machines can't pass the certification.
Oh, that's correct.
Right? So they shouldn't even be allowed to be used during these elections. Why not? Is the consensus at this point, after everything you've learned, that we need to go to one-day voting for federal elections, voter ID, paper ballots, smaller precincts, hand counting?
Yeah.
I mean, does that just simplify everything?
Yeah, it becomes
and
a
then
really...
let's work on the machines if we really want to go back
really simple process. It is. On election day, you have precincts no larger than 1,500 people.
Right.
And then if you want to use a tabulator, let's say you run it through an electronic tabulator, it should come exactly right out of the machine and then count it. So you give your quick report to the county, then you count it before it ever leaves a precinct.
Right.
And that's easy if you have small precincts. But
why the pushback for that?
You know, we ask that all the time.
Why do states push
because
back
our largest pushback are in Republican states.
And why
we have Sarah Huckabee Sanders in Arkansas, where I live. Her administration has gone after Colonel Conrad Reynolds and arrested him for exit polling. We had a county, Independence County, Arkansas. The voters voted 63% to go to hand-marked, hand-counted paper ballots. Early voting started on Tuesday, and they used machines. They came in and said, why? And we had our Secretary of State candidate, Brian Norris. He said, what is going on here? And they said, well, we decided we're not going to do the paper ballot election. And the county, just 9 people overrode the will of the voter. So he's suing now to say you can't just override the will of the voter. This is Republicans.
So if the president were to do an executive order that basically said this is what's going to happen, are we in fear of the counties ignoring that executive order?
I think you're going to have, like, secretaries of state suing the president and saying you can't do this, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to be ignored. They've already ignored his executive order from last year.
Correct.
Arkansas, again, solid red. There's the Sarah Huckabee Sanders appointed the Secretary of State, Cole Jester. He is fought against the president's executive order, say we're not going to follow it because of this, this, and this. We want to use a ballot that uses all barcodes.
Right.
And so the Republicans fight this. So the president can't do an executive order. It has to be a national security, federalized, fully on critical infrastructure. And that's been the consensus, that we understand that Barack Obama deemed all election systems as critical infrastructure.
Right, he did us a favor.
Yeah, and he did that, and once that happened, now the president has final authority on critical infrastructure.
Okay.
So that's the consensus, is the president.
How do we get this to the president to make sure that he follows these simple instructions?
The
Because
president,
it is we the people, we're the boss.
Yeah, the president knows. He hasn't given up on election security. He hasn't stopped talking about machines. He hasn't stopped talking about voter ID, citizenship, mail-out ballots. He hasn't stopped. The problem is get him convincing his circle in the White House that this is the right move now, and having enough of the, quote, evidence to show why he has to do the national emergency.
So I'm going to ask the tough question then, because you just brought up he has a circle in the White House. He's the chief executive officer,
He is.
Okay? So if he says it, it should be made so.
It seems like that.
Right? So now are we looking at the money behind the people that are giving him counsel and seeing who perhaps potentially might be influenced with money? Same to say as these secretaries of states that might be influenced with money?
There could be money in it. There could be people, there might be people who really have his best interest out, who just don't believe that the voting machines are bad, or they just
should they be sitting in this
they
room?
should be.
Right.
But the president did have a representative here, so that's good, and a couple people from the administration.
Who was here?
Kurt Olson was here.
Okay.
And so that's good. And Carrie Lake was here in her official capacity as what I forget the name of the organization.
Voice of
America. Yeah. So she was here listening and speaking, and so I think the message will come back. And it wasn't a room full of conspiracy theorists talking about this election was stolen, this election was stolen, this was election stolen. That actually wasn't anything that was talked about. What was talked about is, where are our points of vulnerability?
Right.
How do we make society feel safe in our system and trust that the election outcome is what the people willed? That's the conversation.
Great.
We want people to have faith that their vote was counted accurately and it mattered and it wasn't just canceled out. They want to know they've been represented and not ruled.
Okay, so the wrap up from this meeting then will be the representatives that were from the administration will take this information back to the president, brief him.
Yep.
And we hope to see action in the form of an executive order.
No, it's got to be a national emergency declaration. Here's what I hope to see. I hope one day the president calls an 8 p.m. National address.
Okay.
He walks to a podium with Tulsi Gabbard on one side and Ratcliffe on the other side, and he says, we have a problem in our elections. It's national critical infrastructure, and we need to correct the action. As the main executive of our country, tasked with the right of preserving our republic, we need to take action and tell the American people everything he's found. It needs to be laid out. We have found this, and this from Georgia, from Fulton County, from what we know has happened in Arizona, from all these different places.
Right.
I need him in a public address calling the national emergency and talking to the people. Because when the people hear from him, they get it firsthand. It hasn't been spun by CNN or MSDNC or faux news. You know, what you get is you get the president talking to the people, and they get their initial gut reaction from what he says, what DNI Gabbard says, what the top administration have to say who are in our security apparatus, then they'll accept what's going on.
So I'm going to push back a little bit on Tulsi Gabbard, absolutely. I think she's fantastic. Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA, I'm going to push back on because he was DNI and had a report that was due.
It was due.
13848.
I want him there.
He missed the deadline for January 2020, January 5th, and then January 6th happened, and he delivered the report on January 7th. And by then it was too late.
So what I want is him there. And I want him to be able to confirm what DNI says, that we have seen this, and this happen. We have known that China mailed in hundreds of thousands of IDs to manipulate an election so illegals or non-citizens could vote because they would have an ID and have those people registered.
Right.
I want him to confirm.
Okay.
That's what I want. I want the confirmation. The DNI isn't an investigative body.
I'm glad the DNI is in Tulsi's hands.
Yeah, me too, and I'm happy to see it. So we need that national emergency, a prime time statement from the president, letting the people hear it firsthand and having a gut reaction from the president.
Right.
They can't hear
Great.
it first from the fake news.
Okay. Well, from your lips to the president's ear as well.
Yeah.
I appreciate you stopping by.
All right,
I'm glad you
thanks.
were in this today. It gives me comfort to know people like
Yeah.
you were in there. It sounded like Cleta Mitchell was in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. We had people from many
Roger
different
Stone,
states.
I heard he gave
Yeah.
I saw Roger when he was walking out.
Roger Stone lit into the Republican establishment, saying
And
it's
he
not
should.
our Democrats that we're fighting here.
He's right.
We're fighting Republicans, and
He's
I see
right.
it firsthand.
Yep.
They've gone after a decorated Army colonel, Conrad Reynolds,
That's right.
who is in the Arkansas Military Veterans Hall of Fame,
Yep.
who's fought for this country, who contains a top secret clearance, and they arrested him because he's on the
Shameful.
side of paper ballots.
Shameful.
Yep.
Shameful. This is shameful. We're watching our country literally in a civil war, and it's an informational civil
Yeah.
war right now, and it has been brewing. And
It's a color revolution.
and it's a color revolution. Exactly right.
And so we're fighting
And
evil.
we know our CIA is very adept at doing it. They've been doing it for 20 years.
They've
with
been
the
doing
help
it all
of-
over the world.
all over
What
the
makes
world.
us think they're not going to try it here?
Well, we're the last thing standing between the New World Order and,
And I'm glad Marco Rubio went and said the New World Order is dead.
yeah.
So we need
yeah,
it.
Yeah, we need it.
So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for covering it and sticking up for these
Oh,
topics.
of course. This is our country.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
No, there's nowhere else to go.
There's nowhere else to go.
Nope.
There's nowhere else
So,
to go.
yeah.
God bless you. Thank you for your
You
work.
too. Thanks.